We have all probably seen the headlines. UK unemployment reaches a record high since the pandemic. It is a fact. The news is making the rounds. And I've had calls, I've had people DMing me asking, Flo, what should we do? What do we do now? There are no shifts, jobs are drying up, from nurses to carers, you name them, dependents, main applicants, main visa holders, migrants. It's across board. But now isn't the time to panic, because this isn't about there are no jobs, but instead it's about where are the jobs at and who are they looking for. Because numbers don't lie, of course, and I know everybody is in panic mode. But got good news in this video, and we're going to be exploring what one can do, especially if one is a migrant in this country. Because what brought us over in the first place, if you're a skilled migrant like myself, who came not so long ago, but 3 years ago to this country, was because there was a shortage. So what has happened is what we're going to talk about in this video, and we're going to be shedding light onto what is it that we can do as migrants to stay relevant, to stay marketable in this ever-changing job market and also this ever-changing migration policy terrain. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So grab a chair and join me as we explore this and come up with other tips and options and real examples of what migrants who are proactive are doing out there. So without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it. And a big welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Florence, and in this video, we're going to be exploring exactly what to do. So let's start with the facts. Of course, unemployment has actually reached a 5% high since the pandemic in 2021. And that is a significant rise. No wonder why the headlines are really everywhere at the minute. Job vacancies have actually fallen by about 100,000 according to the statistics. And we're talking about now job vacancies are sitting at 723,000. That is still a sign that some industries do need people. However, this isn't across board, and I'll shortly go into the numbers and the regions. So if one lives in big cities like London, the Northeast, Manchester, those are big cities and very competitive, and employment is quite high in those regions. But as you go outward bound, you go to Scotland, you go to Wales and other regions outside, it's a bit better, but however, still remains high. So this is not a blanket to say the rest of the UK is suffering from unemployment. It depends with where you are. No wonder why I thought, well, I'll share with my people in this video and we can shed light into how then to approach this situation, how best to really look for opportunities and where best to be looking at, because I'm not a blanket thing across board. There are other regions. I was reading the other time about some parts of Scotland where they literally said all they need is people, because basically it's becoming a ghost place. They're struggling to employ, they're struggling to find people to get into work. That is a sign that in those regions, if one is willing to be flexible and adaptable enough to move into those regions in particular, they could stand a better chance. No wonder why I said I'll make this video, because now is not the time to be panicking, and it is across board, like I said. Now, let's talk about why all of this is happening. Obviously, industries do differ. Some industries have been heavily affected by automation, budget cuts, and technology as well. So it's not just across all industries. I'll give you an example. Industries like the health and social care, which is where I am at. Industries like construction, industries like agriculture, those are thriving. Those industries are in constant motion and in need of people. However, I'll give you an example of IT, accounting, HR, office and blue collar jobs would be affected heavily by this, would be affected definitely by technology, because it's not like they need people all the time. But there are things like if someone needs care, then someone has to be there. So those industries are consistently recruiting and are even recruiting even from abroad still. Last time I made a video commenting, that was in July, when the health and care worker visa was stopped. We're talking about 130,000 vacancies in the industry. And I believe the situation is still dire. We're getting into winter, and from experience, having worked in this industry for the past 3 years, I've noticed a certain trend that during winter, most health and care industry is affected by sickness across, like people really needing to go into hospital due to vulnerability and ailments, and also staff. So therefore, staff shortages are always high, especially going into winter. And apparently we are going into winter, so that's another industry where your demand is always going to be high. But again, we spoke about region by region. I live in the north, and it's one of the places where jobs are consistently going. I've always been looking, and apparently I live in the rural regions of the north, so demand is never as high as compared to bigger cities, in as much as we may say, oh, up north there is opportunities. But if you're talking about big cities like Manchester, Newcastle, then it's a different case altogether. So this is where the contradiction is. While others are being laid off, other industries are consistently wanting people. And if you're immigrant, then now is not the time for panic, but a time to really be planning, re-strategizing, and positioning yourself where the actual jobs are, where the actual demand is. And also it's about now looking at yourself, skills that you possess, qualifications that you have, and start positioning yourself strategically so that you are not affected by this unemployment. And I think reason why a lot of people are panicking as migrants is the fact that if one is on a skilled worker visa and then they run out of a job or they become unemployed, the consequences are far-reaching. The effects are far-reaching, because I'm out of a job for a certain duration would mean now probably if you fail to get into another job with sponsorship, you can see yourself then having to go back home. And most people are not ready. And I've shared in a video why we're not ready. So if you haven't watched that video, please do go and watch the video where I shared why most migrants are not thinking about going home in the immediate future. Maybe later on. We love to go home, but not in the immediate future because of a number of things. So I won't go into detail, but do go and watch that video so that you can have a clear picture of why most migrants would want to stick about. So for migrants, I understand the panic, but also one of the things that I'm consistently sharing, especially on this platform with fellow migrants, is the fact that we need to be prepared. We need to be skilled enough to stay relevant in our respective jobs, in our respective industries. And if one is a dependent, now is the time to really be looking at, if one is looking at career progression, which industries would one want to? It's no longer about just being in any job, but about being strategic about what job you choose, what career path you choose. Because again, like I said, the consequences for any migrant of being out of work are far-reaching, as far as even when you go on to apply for your indefinite leave to remain, they look at employment gaps, they look at your earnings, they look at your contribution. So all those things do matter. No wonder why I thought I'll make this video and really share with my people, share with your relocation tribe what we really should be doing in these times, what to be looking at. Let's look at an example that is closer to home. The very industry that I am in, health and social care, I've had people crying, no more shifts, no more agency work, and we all know about the NHS overhaul and 10-year plan. So for most nurses, really, they are crying. However, it's not everybody that is crying. Those that upskilled, those that advanced, those that acquired the relevant skills and specialized are not crying. So it's not across board. It's always say this, whenever I speak to people, whenever I share on this platform, that being a migrant is all about strategy. The same strategy that we used to outmaneuver everybody that would not make it across, because I'm always a race for the best, a race for relevance. So as a migrant, getting the job or getting into any industry is one thing, but staying there requires a number of steps. And I've had a chance to talk to people who have been in the country for a long time, people who have been in the country for more than 20 years. One of the things that they leveraged on was specializing, upskilling in relevant sectors of the industry as well. So those that stayed in the same place, didn't upskill, and were chasing shifts are the ones probably who are crying the most. However, those that decided to upskill, those that decided to specialize, venture into specialized of the industry, are as relevant as they can ever be, are as stable in their jobs as the demand is just unbelievable. So if one is a carer, there is a few special units that specializing areas that they have to be looking at. Areas like intensive care unit, critical care, theatre nursing, palliative care, community care, learning disability, mental health, community and public health. Those areas are in constant demand. You can never go wrong when you pursue these areas if you're a carer or if you're a nurse looking to upskill. And also, one of the things that I want to say is, if you're finding yourself struggling, especially in this environment and this climate, look at your qualifications, look at your skills. Also, I've noticed a certain trend, especially around or among caregivers. We tend to just go for a course just for the sake of it. I would rather say my advice would be take a pause, take a look at what is it that you want going forward, what career path do you want to pursue. Is what you're doing at the moment or what you want to pursue going to feed into what you want to do in the future? Now is just no longer about just doing it for the sake of it, but it's about strategy. It's about the long-term goal. It's about relevance. It's about critical that skill will be and where it will position you. And sometimes it will position you beyond just job security, but even position you for earning more and gaining the flexibility even of working certain hours, working certain days, working from certain locations only. So it's worth it really considering specializing, considering upscaling, considering really getting your hands onto that qualification. And if you're a nurse and you're watching this video, or you know a nurse and you're watching this video, please forward this video to them. Now is not the time for panic, but a time for positioning. Get into areas like clinical research, where everything is happening. That's where the demand is. That's where the job security is. And that's where probably more money is. So now is the time for us to really be looking at those qualifications, those certificates, those skills that we have, and time to really be leveraging on what we can do or what we possess and how we can then make use or maximum pivoting on what we have or what we can achieve in the shortest possible time, looking into the future, of course. Some people will be asking, so where do the real opportunities live? Outside care, let's look at some of the industries where really real opportunities are, and some of these that we can actually be casting an eye on. Industries like transport and logistics. The country is always moving. There's always consistent moving, deliveries, HG driving, you name it. If one is a dependent, then that is one to look out for. Agriculture, farming. The country needs to eat. That is a fact. In as much as we've got all these things going on, people are still eating. So if one is interested in this area, this is the one area that you're guaranteed you always have something to do. Venture into that. It's interesting if you've got young children that are just finished school and are thinking, what is it that I can do? Agriculture is one area that they should actually be looking at, and it's a diverse and very broad as well. We cannot talk about opportunities and not talk about construction, be it housing, maintenance. This is another region or another industry that will always be offering opportunities, whether for migrants or for the natives. It's always booming, whether to work for certain established organizations or to start doing your own thing. It's a very broad industry, from being a builder to maintenance work to being a trades person. I come from that trades background, and I know trades people will always be in demand. And when we talk about these industries, these are the very industries that can offer chance to even relocate to another country. We can never talk about opportunities and about changing environments and not talk about looking elsewhere. Why do I say that? It's because as a migrant, our job is, we only have got the one job, to be consistently looking for opportunities, to be consistently thriving and working towards our goals. So if a certain country or if a certain industry is not serving your goal, your dream, you should be looking at where else can I go? How else can I leverage on my experience and look at the next possible destination? And never underestimate the experience that we've already had. The experience of working in a first world country, in first world industries and economies. Take that in, you add on a bit of qualifications in whatever role that you are in, and start looking at other countries that you can relocate to. At the moment, there is a real move and gravitation towards Australia. Whether one is a migrant or one is a native of this country, people are looking at Australia for different various other reasons. Of course, the lifestyle, the weather, the money is good. So don't be one of those to be left out. However, you just need to make sure that you match the skills that they desire, because if the demand is that high and people have noticed that this is an opportunity, you have to have what they are looking for you to stay relevant and competitive enough to make the grade. So if you're looking to pivot, these are the industries, these are the jobs that you should be looking at. These are the never cry jobs. These are the never cry industries. You'll never hear people in these really cry. You'll never hear a tradesperson cry. They'll always be everywhere. They'll always have those options. So it could be an option. If you're not a dependent, if you're a dependent and you're watching this video, then that is another direction in which you can look. And if you are the main applicant, you're the visa holder as well, look at what is it that you can do to pivot in specific not to cry areas or sectors of the industry that you are in. And I know we can never have a conversation and not really look at what is it then that we should do. One of the very best things that you should do is to look at your location. Are you in those areas where the opportunities are drying up? Then it's time for you to be preparing to relocate. It's to be preparing to maybe move to other regions where opportunities are. You are not, I always say, you're not cast in stone where you first arrived or where you are. You can always move and still make it. I get that you know how the terrain is. Move towards where the opportunities are. The second thing as well is for you to look at the skills that you have. Is it time for you to be upscaling and staying relevant? Is it time for you to get one of those sought after certifications? It's never too late for you to do so. Look at what can make you stay relevant in whatever job or whatever industry that you will be in. Also, check the industry that you are in. Is your industry expanding or is shrinking? Is it time for you to prepare then to move to another different industry altogether? There is nothing that should limit you from studying a different course altogether from what you're currently doing. There is nothing that should stop you from eyeing a different industry altogether. Just get the qualification, get the skill, and you can always then move to a booming industry. And if you're dependent, now is not the time for you just to be comfortable in the job that you're at, but it's about time that you look at the industry that will give you a floodgate of opportunities. The other thing as well that you should look at is to build networks. I can never overemphasize the fact that some of these opportunities, you get to hear about them through your network, through the people that you refer. So never underestimate the power of networking, the power of really being in those circles, being in those groups where people talk about what that we can do to upskill, what is it that we can do to enter into certain spaces. I can, part of my journey, I think I'll share in a separate video. I've had so much value from interacting with people that have been in the industry, in the country for a long time. They point you in the right direction. They point you towards the relevant skills that you need. So never underestimate the power of networking. Last but not least, staying ready and not scared. Now is the time to really panic, because I always see it with our people. Whenever something comes up, whenever there is a change, they're quick to panic, quick to go like, it's about time we go back home. It's about time I do this and that back home. It's about time we prepare to get home. It's always time if you're a migrant. However, you don't need to panic. You need to plan and plan strategically. You need to know what your goal is and how you're going to achieve it and how you can achieve it as quickly as possible, and what other things so that you add onto what you already have for you to still achieve the same goal even when the environment becomes challenging. So family, here is the truth. Of course, unemployment is rising. That is a fact. However, there is also a rise for skilled, specialized and people. Do you fit that criteria? Now isn't the time for you to be panicking, but it's a time for you to be looking at what you possess, looking at your strengths, looking at your qualifications, and really seeing where you fit in all of this, because opportunities are still out there. However, they're looking for certain specific criteria, certain specific people to really fit into your spaces. So remember, when we came to the country, we came with a purpose. So it's always about how can you achieve, how can you still stay on course to achieve that purpose, to achieve that goal that we had when we were coming back home. And that calls for none other than three things: planning, and also not panicking, strategizing. It's one of the things that I can never have a video where we are talking about the things that affect us and not talk about those things. And remember, by planning, by upskilling, by staying ready, you stay mentally strong, you stay emotionally strong, and basically you're in the best possible position to make decisions. Even if it means you have to move regions, you are best positioned to do so. You find it very easy to move from one region to another. You find it easy to move from one organization to another. And at times that is what is needed, especially when they begin to shrink and dry up as the situation currently. Last but not least, let's keep the conversation going in the comments with us what industry you are in, what job you are in, and what are you seeing so far? Is the trend like? And if you're one of those that have pivoted on upscaling, getting a certification, getting a qualification, share with us in the comments what is it that you have done, which qualifications have you managed to acquire, and what sort of opportunities and doors has it unlocked for you. So we can't wait to hear from you, and that's why I had for you in this video. I'll see you in my next one, and stay positive, stay upscaling, and stay ready. Bye for now. I'll see you.